I thought I'd read a few pages from my novel, Zazoo. At the point where we join them, Zazoo is going to visit Monsieur Felix Klein, who is the village pharmacist. Painful secrets from way back in the past have been slowly emerging. Secrets from far before Zazoo, who was only 13, far before she was even born. It was hard to traipse through Monsieur Klein's door as if the world were not the same as it had been a few days earlier. It was hard trying to greet him without staring at his eyes behind their silver frames and seeing the eyes of a 13-year-old boy, my age exactly, a sad, lonely orphan of war. "Hello, Zazoo," he said, not a boy but a gray-haired pharmacist. "You look so sad today." "I'm sad every day, monsieur. Nothing's the same." Bending slightly at the waist, he peered closer at me, and it wasn't too bad until he tried smiling, which was so very sad it made me burst into tears. "No, Zazoo, you're right. Nothing can possibly be the same once you've looked into hell." He made his hands busy adjusting his bow tie and his glasses. "But we must try, just the same. The weather is fine?" "Weather," I repeated, as if it were a foreign word. "The air is clear? The breeze is fresh?" "I suppose so, Monsieur Klein, yes." I tried a smile of my own. "You're a brave man." He shrugged. "I don't know. We live one day and then we live the next. Sometimes it doesn't seem possible, but we do." "To work here in this store," I said, "in this same village where it happened? How can you bear it? Living in the same house where you lived with them?" "It's my home. We take the bitter with the sweet." His eyes softened. "Speaking of which, I have some sweet for you, Zazoo. No letter, I'm afraid." "That's all right, monsieur. I couldn't admit that although the world was so bleak I didn't deserve a letter, I wanted one, anyway." "No letter," he repeated, smiling. "Just another postcard from Paris." He drew the card from beneath his cash drawer and handed it across the counter. A gorgeous little painting, it showed. A city and river scene of wide green water spanned by a many-arched bridge, all done in red and gold, with an orange-red sky in the background. "For the second time," said Monsieur Klein, "your friend shows admirable taste. This picture by André Derain dates from 1905 or 1906, an amazing work." He gazed across the counter. "Can't speak?" "I can speak, monsieur. It's just that I walked in here so filled with pain, your sister, Grand-Pierre, the war, and then you hand me this beautiful card and I'm flooded with joy, perhaps?" "With joy, Monsieur Klein, yes, but also such sadness and joy all at once. How can it be possible?" "As I said, Zazoo, a cliché, but nonetheless true. We must accept the bitter with the sweet." He rocked back on his heels. "Perhaps your young birdwatcher sends you a message along with this painting of the London Bridge?" "I'm too excited to read, monsieur, too happy, and at the same time too sad. It's hard to explain." "Certainly. And perhaps you'd rather not read it here?" "Maybe not, no. Maybe along the canal." "Where you met him? Yes, that sounds like the place." I felt like hugging Monsieur Klein, but couldn't manage it. I felt like saying Grand-Pierre had suggested I call him Uncle Félix, but was too shy for that as well. All I could do was thank him, and thank him again, and make my way out the jingling door into the street. When I reached the tow path and found a good place beneath the sycamores, I was pleased to see how tiny Marius had made his words, fitting as many as possible into his small rectangle of space. Dear Zazoo, a thought that strikes me when I walk beside the River Seine here in Paris, or study this painting of a river in London, is that the same water flowing beneath those bridges flows beneath your stone bridge, too. And this thought of water leads to thoughts of swimming, and to thoughts of who swims most gracefully and why. It seems the loveliest swimmers splash less by elegantly pointing their feet when they disappear into the water. Remember when you swam under the canal that morning, rising just enough for me to catch a glimpse of your feet, then pulling them down out of sight? You pointed your toes so perfectly they made no splash at all. Did someone teach you? Or, as I suspect, did you learn from watching the fish? As for me, there's something I must tell you. When I was 7, an illness kept me home all year. I was cared for by my grandmother, who was better at dealing with a sick boy than my parents were. But more on this later, out of room. Your friend, Marius. Wonder of wonders. What else could I think of all through my school day? What else could I read over and over, pretending it was a binomial equation or a biology chart? What else could I write in my notebook but my careful reply? But I needed a suitable card on which to copy out my message. I didn't go to the tobacco shop with its postcard photos of tourists holding strings of fish. I went back to Monsieur Klein's pharmacy. He wasn't surprised. Mademoiselle Zazoo, I've been expecting you. You've grown more curious about modern art, perhaps? All sorts of art, monsieur. I loved your photo of the purple heron, as I'm sure our bird watcher did. But do you have any cards in that drawer of yours that include, reproductions of dazzling paintings? Exactly, monsieur. Dazzling, like that dreamy painting he sent me with the white Eiffel Tower in its orange-brown sky. Monsieur Klein chuckled with pleasure. Yes, I thought another Chagall might appeal to you. Just last night I rummaged among my dusty postcard masterpieces to set up, shall we say, a tiny art gallery here under my cash drawer. And in my search I came across 2 Chagalls, both gems. One is perhaps too gloomy for your purpose, more appropriate for me to keep. Here it is, the cemetery gates, which Chagall painted during the First World War. I thought it might interest you since we were discussing the Star of David, you see, here at the center of the gate, above this writing in Hebrew. A lovely painting. I worked hard to keep my voice cheery, but couldn't look at the Star of David without thinking of his family. These folded chunks of blue in the sky, they look like a storm coming. But it's such a sad painting, monsieur. Does everything Jewish have to be sad? Then take a look at this one, Zazoo. Slightly less sad. A man playing the violin on a roof. Is he in the sky too, like the Eiffel Tower on my wall? Oh, I like this one, monsieur. May I send it to Marius? It's sure to make him smile. With my blessing, take it. I'll explore my archive for others. You're a good influence, Zazoo. You remind me to think of pleasant things. Marius is the good influence. I felt myself smiling. He, after all, sent us his shimmering Eiffel Tower. Then please thank him from me too when you write. Seeing me dig in my pocket for money, Monsieur Klein held up his hand. Not a franc. Sending the boy my gratitude is payment enough. When you said he was a bird watcher, I knew he must be all right. Encourage him to visit my pharmacy whenever he chooses. We can discuss birds and floating fiddlers and the miracles of modern art. I'll tell him, monsieur, if I have room on the card. Marius, as you can guess, your saying that my feet don't splash has made me walk the school halls with my nose very high. But more seriously, your card arrived at a time of great sadness to me. Things I've learned about the war and my grandfather and Monsieur Klein and his family. You've done more than you could ever have guessed to help me feel better. Thank you. Monsieur Klein, by the way, praises your choice of art and invites you to visit his pharmacy. He helped me pick out this painting by your same Russian magician, Marc Chagall. I'd love to meet your grandmother. She must be very kind. I'd like to know what she looks like, how her voice sounds, how she laughs. Does she have a name? Stay warm in Paris. Zazoo. The postcard with its half-sad, half-happy rooftop fiddler slid into the postbox to make its way to Paris. Walking the towpath back to the mill, I saw the kindly eyes of Marius, who had been ill as a child, but now rode his dusty bicycle and watched for birds and called himself my friend. His face was as real as my gray cat, who silently walked the path behind me, just out of sight, but close now, close, ready to reappear.